If you have a business, you know that you will likely need a logo at some point, whether it's to have logos for your shirts or for your websites or for social media. Having a logo can really give you that brand identity that really does level you up. So today we're going to talk all about logo design and what you need to do before you consult a logo designer. Welcome to the Up in My Business podcast with me, Lex Lancaster, where you'll get an inside look at all things tech, business, and my life as a physical therapist turned digital operations expert. You'll hear all about my lessons as a business owner, the ins and outs of tech for your business, and more. From SEO, websites, and email marketing to automations, launches, and copywriting, I've got you. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. All right, let's do this. So this is probably going to be a pretty short episode because there's not too much to talk about here. I say that and it may be my famous last words, but let's dive into logo design. I'm not going to talk about the design itself. I'm going to talk about what you need to do prior to hiring someone to design your logo. I used to do logo design a couple years ago, and I just found that it didn't bring me as much joy as I would have wanted it to, so I stopped offering it. It just wasn't something that I sat down and was super passionate about it, and I just didn't love it, so I stopped doing it. And I now refer out to a couple different people, which I will link in the show notes. The people that I refer out to vary in cost, they vary in style, and I also have an option that I'll talk about that has any type of style that you could potentially want. So I like to give all the options because I understand that people are at different places in their business and they need different options, if you will, for investment. So I'm going to dive in first to what you need to do before you hire a logo designer. Then we're going to talk about Canva logos, and then we're going to talk about just my quick little recommendations, if you will, for the logo designers that I send people to. So before you hire a logo designer, this is super important. People don't do this, and then they wonder why their logo is something they hate. And it's like, because you gave the designer full authority. I understand that you may be saying, okay, I have no idea what I want. That's all right. I promise. If you follow these steps, you'll have a better idea because most people don't know what they want, but they know what they don't want. And the coolest thing is that if you follow these steps, you will see that there is a style, there is a thing that you are drawn to, there is a certain type of logo that really does speak to you, and it's probably smart to go with what your brain is already saying, ooh, I love that about. So step number one is to go to Pinterest. I love Pinterest for logo design. Go to Pinterest and create a board that's called What I Like. Then you're going to create another board that is What I Don't Like. We're going to do this for logos first. So if you have whatever business you have, I am going to focus on the health and wellness movement professional. I would search health and wellness logos or fitness logos, physical therapy logos, chiropractic logos, exercise logos. That's what I would start your search with. So on Pinterest, you're going to type in that search term, all those search terms, do a couple different ones. You're going to go throughout the results. And what you're going to do is you're going to pin things to their respective boards. You're going to just look at the logos that come up. Pinned, like it. Pinned, don't like it. And so on. What you're doing here is you're categorizing, if you will, what logos speak to you and which ones don't. And I would request that you do this for a couple different searches and also for a couple different days. I wouldn't just sit down and do this in one day. It's really nice to have it, one or two times you sit down and you do this because coming back with a fresh mind, fresh eyes can really change what you start pinning. The coolest thing and what I want you to wait to do, you're going to go through and pin because you're searching things. What I don't want you to do is go to those boards in the middle of this whole pinning fiesta and look at the boards. That's going to be what you do at the end. So save that for after you do the thing a couple different times for multiple different searches. All right. So you can make it your niche specific. So if you go to Pinterest, you can probably search most terms and just say like X, Y, and Z logo design, insert your niche there. I also would recommend you add in a very generic search. Square logos, circle logos, just logos in general. So that way you can just get a gist of different types of logos that you like. One search that might fit most people is typography logos. So typography logos, that's just text logos instead of something that has like an icon. So searching for these terms, pinning what you like to the like board, pinning what you don't like to the don't like board. Okay. Now, the next board, 2 boards that you're going to create are font likes and dislikes. So you're going to create fonts I like and fonts I don't like. And then you're going to go to Pinterest and you're going to type in fonts. And it's as simple as that, fonts for my logo or fonts for a website. The reason you do this is because you have to determine and you have to let your logo designer know what style speaks to you. I hate bubble letters, like round, thick letters. I don't like it. So my don't like board is full of fonts that are that style. Some people really like a script. They love the cursive. Cool. So that'll be on your like board. So you're just once again searching for fonts on Pinterest and you're pinning the fonts that you like and fonts you don't like. Okay. Now, once again, the same rules apply. Don't go to these boards until you've done this. The last board, if you will, that you're going to create will be your mood board. Now, you don't need to do this if you already have brand colors. If you already have brand colors, you know your hex codes, the 6-digit letter number code that corresponds to each specific color. If you already have that, don't do this part. But if you don't have brand colors yet, what I would do is just start searching mood boards on Pinterest, and you can also search color palettes. So if you just type in color palettes for logo, color palettes for website, start pinning them to things you like. You don't need to necessarily you can do a don't like board, but sticking with your likes for colors is almost more beneficial because you're never going to say like, I don't like X, Y, and Z. I want my brand colors to be, green, blue, and yellow. And that'll be that for the logo designer. You have to have a dark color and a light color. So you got to use the color wheel on this. If you have a lot of blues in your logo or in your brand identity, you're going to have like a dark gray for your dark color because you're going to have to be able to write on top of those blues and it needs to match. So black doesn't really match. You also need a really light color. So white, really, really light gray. That also needs to be able to go on top of the dark colors you have. So for what it's worth, even though you pin all these beautiful colors, also understand that you need to have a really, really dark and a really, really light. Okay. So now that we have these boards, what you want to do is you want to go to them and just look at the patterns. It's actually really, really fascinating to see the patterns that end up coming out when we pin a bunch of things to boards, because you will see naturally that your logo style, what you're really looking for, does come out in those boards, regardless of whether or not you're someone who's like, I know exactly what I want, or I don't know what I want. That will come out, I promise. So once you have those boards, keep them, don't get rid of them. And then you'll have the links to those boards that you can share with the logo designer that you hire. So that's the idea there. It's like, I saved all of these types of logos. I really like the look of these. I do not like this type of logo. That gives someone somewhere to start. It's really important to give a logo designer a place to start. Yes, they can take full design authority, but if I'm someone who doesn't like bubble text, I'm wasting my money, their time, if they're going to deliver me logos with bubble text. Just not a good plan. Not a good plan at all. So we have logos that we already like, don't like, fonts we already like, don't like, and colors, right? So now the problem, if you will, that a lot of people have is they're like, I don't know what type of icon is going to fit my business. That is really, really important to just jot down. Like, do you want a runner? Do you want icons at all? Do you want your your business name, Lex Lancaster? Do I want 2 L's like what I have? What would be your ideal, or what you think would be your ideal icon? But typically logo designers design this for you, and it comes out of the design that they make, the full design they make. They do that. So don't worry too much about that icon unless you work with a specific population. If you are working with only runners, it might be beneficial to have an icon with a runner in it at some point, or a logo with a runner in it in some way, shape, or form. But I'm also the person that's going to tell you, if you have a runner in your logo, it's going to be really hard to work with a power lifter if they only see your logo. So for what it's worth. So we have chosen our colors, our fonts, and our board for all of these things. So we have what we like and what we don't like. So I actually would say that if you are starting out, there's no shame. I don't want you to feel like I'm shaming you. If you start out with a Canva logo, at some point, set aside money. Logo design can be anywhere between, I have an option that's very cost effective at like $300, and then it can go up to $2,000. So it really depends, but set aside money to get a legit logo that is drawn by a designer. So reason being is that there's copyright on Canva's stuff. You're using articles that are existing within Canva. That's why artists are logo designers, because they draw the elements that are in your logo. So it's really important to make sure that you hire someone eventually, especially if you're looking to trademark, or if you have this, specific business that you don't want anyone else to, take eventually, and you have a specific type of letter that you use in your logo. Trademark it. Cool. But you can't do that if you create your logo on Canva. All right. So I always want to warn people about the whole Canva logo situation. Now, one thing I want to touch on quick is the logo files that you need. Any logo designer knows what files you need, but I also just want to make it, very much so in the open here, since we're talking about it anyway. You need to have a logo that is a dark color and a light color. You need to have logos that are whatever brand color that you have. If you have a logo that incorporates all of your brand colors, cool. You also need one that's like just black, or just dark blue, dark gray, whatever, and one that's white. So make sure you have the variety in color so that you can use them in different places. Always make sure you have a version that has a transparent background. Try to make sure you have one that is a square. Even if your logo is not a square, it's just on a square board. So that way when you save it, it's physically a square, even if your logo's a circle. Just little tidbit things that I like to make sure you know. On your website, it's really helpful to have a logo that's horizontal, like a landscape, if you will. So we have landscape logos, we have square logos, we have circle logos. I like to have a long landscape logo for the website header. It just looks better. I'm also speaking from a place of Renegade's logo. So my physical therapy business, we have a circle logo. I'm speaking from a place of I wish we also had an option, and we do have an option for our merch that has a rectangle logo, but I just think rectangle logos look better on websites. And then the circle logo looks really good in the footer. So I like to have a circle option, and I like to have a horizontal landscape-ish option. So like a rectangle. It's also nice to have those 2 different options for merch. So website and merch, you can really benefit from having those 2 different versions of your logo. So that's kind of like going into what you need to make sure you ask a logo designer. Lastly, it's just too difficult for me to talk about each specific person that I recommend for logo design in the episode. So I'm just going to talk about what to think about when you're hiring a logo designer. So the first thing you need to think about is that this is like a one and done purchase, right? So when you have a logo and it's what you want, and it's, something that represents your brand, and you don't intend on changing your brand, once you buy the logo, you don't have to change it again. So it is an investment that you make and then you have forever. So for what it's worth, logo design and having it drawn up, having it made by someone who is a professional is super, super valuable, and it's a one and done thing. Yes, you can rebrand later if you really want to. Nothing is solidified. It's fine. You can always change. It's not a final thing. But if you really intend on never rebranding, it's literally one and done. So it's a one-time investment. which is why it's important to choose someone good. So I'll list the people, like I said, in the show notes, and you can look at their styles. That's what I like to tell people. It's like you need to look at the styles of logos that they have designed in the past. That's why I have the option for Vistaprint's 99 Designs option, because it incorporates a bunch of different artists and they compete for your artwork. So you tell them what you want, a bunch of different artists compete, and then they design logos that you like. The other options that I have, yes and no, they may have the ability, if you will, to design different types of logos, but most artists have a preference for how they design things and, the different types. Like some people only do stamp logos. They only do those. So you have to keep in mind that there are going to be preferences that artists have that you may not jive with. Book a discovery call and see if they can help you. Typically on that discovery call, they will ask to see your brand boards, exactly what I showed you. And they'll say, I don't create logos like that. Or I do create logos like that. Let's do it. I had someone who has a history of work, Alyssa, who I will link, and she didn't have the type of logo that my client wanted. And she was like, oh, no. Like I can design that 1000%. It's just not what I showcase on my website. Cool. So once again, book a discovery call, have those Pinterest boards handy, have like an ideal, like this is what I'm looking for handy, and show them. And they'll say either yes or no. And if they give you the no, if both of my recommendations say no, I can't do that, then also understand, go to 99 Designs and there will be plenty of artists there who will compete for your logo and they'll likely match it because they know exactly what you're looking for. So only the artists who do that style of design will show up to that competition online. All right. Last thing I want to talk about, well, really two things, is timeline and money. So I already said it's a one-time investment. I've seen logo packages for branding and logo be anywhere between $300 to $2,000, even more. Sometimes it's about brand identity. Like, are you actually developing your brand identity from baseline? What colors are we using? How do those colors make me feel? Where are we doing a whole brand guide for the website too? It's just, what are you getting in that package? So I'm not saying like, beware, prices are high. It's a value thing, right? So once again, it's a one and done investment. So I am not against spending a lot of money on your brand identity and logo package for what you get, okay? Lastly is timeline. So oftentimes people will want to have a logo right away when they start their business. Understand that if you wait too long, logo designers book out. So if you need a logo tomorrow, right away, 99 Designs, I will say any client who has ever gone through them, they get it pretty quick. If you're booking with a human, understand that they have a schedule and they likely are booking out. So if you're thinking about starting a business, if you're thinking about rebranding, if you're thinking about just getting your logo actually professionally drawn up, I would book them sooner rather than later. You have to save time for that back and forth between you and the designer because that's how you get the logo that you truly, truly love. And they have to have time in their schedule to do this. So making sure that you ask a logo designer sooner rather than later to help you create the logo of your dreams, because waiting till last minute is not smart, especially with those logo designers that I'm going to link. I would never wait until last minute if you're truly looking to have a logo designed by someone and you're not going to be forced to use 99 Designs. And by force, I just mean like, if you have a last minute need, that's typically the only option you have. So just nice to be able to start early, never really a harm to start early, and then have that logo ready to go when you need it. All right, that's all I have for you on logos. If you have questions about logos, please let me know. Check out the show notes for the people that I recommend and refer to regularly. And I look forward to chatting more in the next episode. I'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for being here.